Hey friends and welcome. My name is Dr. Heather Carden and welcome to Ask Dr. Heather. My name again is Dr. Heather Carden. I am the co-owner of Carden Center for Wellness, and I have this page, Ask Dr. Heather, because oftentimes I was getting a lot of questions at the office that maybe didn't pertain to their chief complaint or their chief reason for actually coming into the office, or getting lots of messages private from people who aren't my patients, who live around the globe. And so I thought, what better way to do that actually help answer your questions? So as questions come in throughout the week, I actually make a little note, I copy and paste them to a sheet, and I want to help answer your questions live, because I know if you have a question, that means somebody else somewhere across the globe has the exact same question. So I try to do my best to get your questions answered. What I did the previous year in 2018 was actually wait for a whole bunch of questions to pile up and say, well, there's 20% are thyroid, 50% are gut issue, 2% are autism, and I would try to address the majority of the questions. But what I'm going to do this week, or really the rest of this year, is just start addressing questions as they come in. I know I could probably do a topic on each question, but no, this is absolutely meant to be shared. I'm not here to treat or diagnose or overrule any of your medical doctor's information, so I cannot say, yes, do this if your medical doctor said no, because they have full access to your medical guide. I am a wellness practitioner, like I said, also a mother of 4 amazing young men, but I'm going to get right down to your questions. And again, if you see on my page is Ask, Act, Achieve, which means ask your question, act on some information that I give you. Oftentimes just 1 or 2 or 3% of an action step, like simply just drinking more water, can make amazing changes in your health, because we want you to achieve the amazing health that you deserve to have. So one of the questions that I got this week was from a person named Sandy. Sandy said, I recently started the ketogenic diet and do have a family history of high cholesterol. In January, my cholesterol was 300 and my doctor started me on a statin. So she said, so hopefully when I go back for labs in a couple weeks, it could be lower. So I just want to review cholesterol here for just a couple of minutes. And there's some really amazing books. There's a lot of really easy YouTube videos out there you can follow. Cholesterol Clarity has been out for a decade. It's a very easy book to follow. You can also find this, a lot of my favorite books that are easy to read on my blog, which is AskDrHeather.net. Just go over to favorite or to my Amazon store and you'll see easy books to follow there. Also Keto Cure by Dr. Adam Nally, Doc Muscle. He's got a great, very simple explanation of cholesterol. So 20 some years ago when I was in school, normal cholesterol was 295. Then what we do? Statins came about. We lowered the cholesterol level because we thought that's what caused heart disease, because that was a major killer of Americans. So then we lowered the total cholesterol down to 249. And then what happened? We still had people dying of heart disease. The number still went on the incline. Then we lowered the cholesterol number down to 224. Now to 199. What's happened when we've gone from 299 to 199 on acceptable total cholesterol? We've increased heart disease. We've manufactured dozens more drugs on heart disease, things like statins. And what's happened? More and more people are dying of heart disease. 80% of women will pass away due to heart disease. My sister had a pulmonary embolism, which is considered a heart issue, at the age of 48 and passed away watching TV. She did not have high cholesterol. My aunt was 42. She was simply vacuuming and passed away due to a heart pulmonary embolism, and it was not due to high cholesterol. So I'm here to tell you, I've done a lot of research on this just based on my own genetics. What we do know is that total cholesterol number is not an indicator of heart disease. It's a lifestyle issues. But we do know there are some markers like lipo-A, lipo-E, little things like that that do say there's more of a genetic issue. But what we've found over the last 30 years, it is more what do I want to say? We talk about genetics, but we also talk about nature over nurture. So if you all eat in the same house, you all make fried chicken, twice a week, you all eat mashed potatoes and apple pie 2 to 3 times a week, you all have ice cream before you go to bed, there's no essential carbohydrates, you're not eating vegetables, you're not eating healthy fats, that's going to make your whole entire family more likely to be obese, to have heart disease. But there are some genetic markers. What we know about genetic markers in heart disease or breast cancer or any significant health disease is that we know genetics load the gun, but lifestyle fires it. Lifestyle like too much stress, not enough sleep, improper diet, not enough exercise. So Sandy, hopefully that helps answer your question a little bit more. There are very natural things you can do to help lower cholesterol. Even actually coffee helps lower triglycerides, which are super important, because triglycerides plus LDLs, we know that HDLs are your happy cholesterol. Those are really what clog up the arteries. And knowing the size particle of the LDLs, which are super important, because if we have the same number of LDLs, but say LDLs are twice as big in one person and half the size in the other one. The little small LDLs actually fall through. I've got a great graphic over there, but I'll post it later. Actually fall through the capillary lining, and that's what actually clogs up and causes a decrease in blood vessel wall volume, where the bigger ones actually bounce through and actually go out through the blood. So the small ones fall through. When I talk about plaquing and heart disease, think of triglycerides like sugar and LDLs like butter. So if you've ever made a cookie, you know how that kind of sticks together. That's what's happening when you're getting plaquing and coronary heart disease. We also know the gut has a lot to do with it, and our liver health, because that has to break it apart. So there's two good books, Sandy, I'd love for you to read, or somebody else who's been put on a statin. Again, I cannot reverse what your doctor's told you, but I do want you to do your own personal research, be your own advocate, and say, you know what, I read this book called Lipitor, the Thief of Memory, or How Statins Stole My Brain. Those are also on my site, which is AskDrHeather.net. Go to Amazon. Books are there. So it's Lipitor, the Thief of Memory, How Statins Stole My Brain. What we do know is that cholesterol breaks down to all of our anti-aging hormones, things like DHEA, also makes things like testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, estradiol, makes all those aldosterone. It makes all of our healthy hormones. So think a minute, the most vogue thing that's happening is people are getting testosterone pellets put into their bum, or people are taking testosterone shots, or we have a large amount of people having infertility issues. We have teenagers that are having a lot of hormonal issues, whether it's from acne or painful periods or no cycles at all, or we have men who are prematurely aging with lower testosterone levels or prematurely graying. What is that saying? Lowering the testosterone level, we have more hormone issue because hormones come from cholesterol. We also know that we actually have a rise in heart disease, and we've lowered the total cholesterol acceptable level. So I'm going to let you guys do a little bit of research. Hopefully those books gave you a great idea. And Sandy, great question. Hopefully that helps answer it. And when you're choosing a diet like a low carb or ketogenic diet, this is where clean keto versus dirty keto comes into play. I know these are just slang words, but dirty keto is a lot of processed stuff, processed salami, processed food, pork rinds that have red dye number 40, not real healthy pork rinds, but more plant fats like olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, eating avocados, flax, chia seeds, lots of veggies. Those type of things are great. That's a clean keto diet. Getting locally ground beef or chicken or poultry when you can, grass-fed butter over things like Crisco. So just keep it clean, and then again, keep track of those and just have a chat with your doctor. Because what happens on a true ketogenic diet, you're going to find more LDLs because your body's going to use those fat and going to break those down and use them for energy. Just like on a diabetic, we have a higher level of blood sugar. If you're diabetic and your blood sugar level is 150, 160, 190, we're like, well, that's to be expected. They're a diabetic. Well, if you're on a ketogenic diet and have for 1 or 2 or 3 years, if you have higher LDLs, it's to be expected that you're going to have more fat circulating because that's what your body's going to break down after a certain point and use for that. So I have a big question on GERD too I want to cover, but I'm actually going to go back to your questions here because I want this to be a Q&A based on that, not a product question, but really help you better understand that question. So Sarah's asking, can ketones help someone with a family history of, okay, Sarah, this is a great question. I'm so happy you asked this. So we were recently at an event called Keto Academy, and I do a lot of research, listen to a lot of podcasts, listen to a lot of TED Talks, and what we actually learned from several different researchers who were at different universities, different research labs, one on brain tumors, one on my brain's going like everywhere with that question because I would probably do a 45-minute talk on that. What we do know is that when there's a broken brain, so that would include Alzheimer's, PTSD, TBI, kiddos with soccer hitters, concussion syndrome, traumatic brain injury, anxiety, maybe damage due to medication, Parkinson's. What we do know with a broken brain is that when we go to take energy, because our brain needs energy to signal the rest of our body, that when our body's running on glucose on the standard American diet, that when there's a broken brain, what happens is the glucose transportation system doesn't work very well. That means the brain's not getting the energy that it should need. But with the same broken brain, using a ketogenic diet and or pure therapeutic exogenous ketones, and I'm going to speak specifically to prove its ketones over anyone else's because that's the data that I know, is that that 100% of the energy is uptaken to the brain. So we see studies where Parkinson's patients were tremoring, drinking glucose, then they drink pure ketones, and the tremoring decreases. Or we see that happen with seizure activities. You can go to the Charlie Foundation for that information. A lot of information out there, but we do see that with Alzheimer's because we know it needs more energy. Dr. Mary Newport, I got 3 books back there talking about, we know that the brain is about 60% fat. We know when babies come out into this world and mother's milk is really high in MCT oil. So on a ketogenic diet, using MCT oil, using pure therapeutic exogenous ketones, the one that our body can uptake, and using exogenous ketones plus using MCT oil, the different blends of MCT oil can absolutely help increase that. The information's just now coming out, but that is what the current studies are telling us. So somebody said, is a reboot safe for somebody with hypoglycemia? So I was not going to talk about the reboot, but I will talk about it for just a minute because we've got a whole page dedicated to that. And if you don't know what the reboot is, put a 60 down and I will personally get back with you. So if you don't know what the reboot is, put a 60 down. So what happens is when you eat a carbohydrate or if you eat a protein, your body uses insulin. So if you are not eating carbohydrates, you're not having your glucose, you're not having your oatmeal, you're not having your avocado toast, you don't need insulin. It makes sense that your insulin's not going to yo-yo. What happens is normally in the morning you get up and maybe you have some bacon and some eggs, and those are proteins, so you still need a little bit of insulin. And then maybe you do have a cup full of berries, you need insulin. Your insulin will rise for 30 to 40 minutes and then drop. Sometimes it's been overused or the system's not running right, and it'll go high and then drop too low, and that's that oral hypoglycemia that you feel. So on the reboot system, hypothetically, if you're not having carbohydrate intakes, or again, there's 3 or 5 carbohydrates in the ketones or in the broth, you should not need very many units of insulin, so you should not have that rebound effect. However, for your type 1 diabetic, we do not recommend this program for you, but simply check with your healthcare provider first before starting a reboot program. Again, if you don't know what it is, please put 60 down and I will personally get back with you because we have an amazing private group that I can introduce you to. This is a super, Nan is asking, so drinking ketones, I'm going to get to this GERD question because Mark has waited for this, so I want to make sure I get to his GERD question. And Kat, thank you for sharing. Remind me, guys, this is meant to be shared. It's meant to be educational. It's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to help you better understand how you could optimize your life in little different ways. So Nan's saying, can drinking ketones in the morning first thing break my fast? So Nan, the best way to know, again, there's lots of different ketones being made. 2015, there was only Prove It's ketones. There's ketone salt, ketones ester. So I'm going to speak specifically to Prove It's pure therapeutic exogenous ketones that we have 7 different patents on. So the best way, because again, there's that 1% of people who are going to be a little bit off. Maybe you didn't sleep good at night. Maybe you're on pharmaceuticals. Maybe you have some hormone imbalance, or you've got testosterone pellets in, something like that. 99% of the time, it will actually maintain and keep you in ketosis. So simply check your urine or check your blood. Then drink your ketones, wait 45 minutes, check your urine, check your blood. If your blood glucose goes up, whether it's your fat coffee, your exogenous ketones, and maybe you're putting bubbly water in your exogenous ketones, or maybe you're putting some extra stevia, or maybe you're putting some coconut milk in there, because that's what I found on a couple of questions, that people are adding extra things to it. Just use water, and if your blood glucose stays the same or goes down, then you're still in your fast. If your ketone levels stay the same or go up, you're still in your fast. So there is a small amount of people that it could respond differently, but it's about 1%. So Edna says, what is the best way to use electrolytes? So Edna, electrolytes are so important for our body. I always say it's like electrolytes plus water equal electricity for our body. It's a neurotransmitters for our body. So I actually like to use electrolytes, pink Himalayan sea salt. I actually like to use them with our food or when I'm eating, because the salts help break down and digest proteins. It helps something called BUN, or denitrification of our liver, actually break apart our food. We also know that electrolytes, things like sodium, work like taxi cabs to put nutrients into our cells, specifically when we're eating or drinking. So I like to use them either pre or post workout. I like to use them in the middle of the day when I'm super tired, because I know I'm not getting the nutrients into the cell. If I'm doing a shortened intermittent fasting hours, like today I'm doing OMED, which is 1 meal every day. So I did 1 meal today. Then I used some electrolytes this morning. I'm going to use some electrolytes this afternoon just to make sure I'm getting those minerals in through my body. the easiest thing is listen to your body. If you know you're not thirsty, if you know you're not hungry, but you're feeling a little bit tired, then have some electrolytes, some Lights. I absolutely love their upgraded electrolytes. Have a pinch of sea salt. And then again, check with your doctor. Look at your blood work. If your sodium level is below 140, you need some sodium. If your potassium is below 4.0, you need a little potassium, but never take potassium if your doctor has not looked at your blood work and says you need it. You can take excess magnesium. If you get too much, it'll just go out in the toilet. Sodium will also just go away if you don't need it, but not potassium. Make sure you check that out on blood work. So these are awesome questions, guys. I know I'm going to miss a couple of them, so I'm actually going to get to GERD here for just a minute, if that's okay with everybody. And again, thanks for sharing. So I did a little talk about GERD, just about digestion and hydrochloric acid. So you can find most of these on my YouTube channel, which is Ask Dr. Heather. It's all free. So Mark had asked about GERD. So 60 million Americans, if you suffer from GERD or indigestion, maybe belching when you're eating, when you're not eating, raise your hand. I just had one of my sons come back from doing a month at Fort Irwin, and he is belching a lot in my kitchen. And the only thing I pointed to is the MREs he was eating every single day, because his gut is definitely off. I probably shouldn't say it because he's 21 and home right now, but that's the only thing I can contribute it to, because you know what's in an MRE, right? Anyway, it's calories, which they need. So 60 million Americans experience some type of heartburn or GERD at least once a month. 15 million adults experience at least one time a day. So what is GERD? GERD specifically is gastroesophageal reflux disease. It just simply means at the end of the esophagus, so we have our mouth, it chews the food, we have little glands that throw in some stuff. So our mouth is meant to kind of emulsify it, chew it up. It's called mastification. Then we have some salivary glands that dump some saliva in there. Then we have a food tube called the esophagus. Then we have our stomach that actually just dumps in some hydrochloric acid. It also some B12 to dump some stuff in there, and all the stomach is supposed to do is make the food like chyme. That means baby food, all broken apart. It's supposed to be very, very acidic. So if you say, you know, I touch this, or I touch my nose and I have bacteria and I eat something, it's supposed to be very acidic to help kill any critters that are actually in your food to help protect your stomach. So as it travels on, the gallbladder, if necessary, may throw some salts in there. The liver can sift and sort, and so it helps protect the body. So the stomach's supposed to be very acidic. So what we find a lot of time is that people are having GERD. We say, oh, well, you must have too much acid, so let's do a proton pump inhibitor. Let's stop the acid. Well, let's think about that for a minute. So if you stop the acid, again, the stomach's supposed to help break it apart. How are you getting minerals out of your food? Because you need acid to break the minerals out. You need acid to extract the protein out of the food. You need acid to get the iron out of the spinach. You need acid to get the magnesium out of almonds, so to say. You need your stomach to be pretty acidic, but some people say, well, I have just too much acid, because what happens is with GERD is that you eat it and then it starts to flow back up on you. Sometimes that can be caused from a hiatal hernia after pregnancy. Sometimes it can be caused from someone who has chronic asthma. You're coughing, you're sneezing, and that gets super weak through there. So that can cause that acid to come back up. Also, obesity can do that. Maybe you sit at your desk all day and you drive and you've got that's your hiatal hernia I'm pointing to on my yoga shirt. So that acid will come back up. If you're eating too large of amounts, think of your hand for a minute. This is the size of your stomach. Think about what you ate yesterday on the 4th of July. If you're putting a bigger volume than that in there, but yes, our stomach can stretch out, but if you've been putting too big of a volume in there, what's going to happen? It's going to come back up, right? Because it's got to like, well, let me try that again. Give me a little bit more time to digest that. Give me a little more time to break it down. So oftentimes when we have reflux, if we have GERD, it can actually be helped by actually eating smaller quantities, chewing your food, or we're not rabbits and cows, so some people have an issue with raw vegetables. Go ahead and steam them, go ahead and grill them, blanch them if you want to, which will help break down the cellulose and break down some of the fiber and some of the veggies so you can actually digest them better. I have found oftentimes it comes from people doing things like drinking large amounts of soda, which is acid, or coffee, or alcohol with meals, and then they'll start to get GERD. So if we say, you know what, let's break apart this. Let's have our water in between meals, or coffee, or tea. Then when you're having food, don't depend on water to chew your food for you or break it apart. You go ahead and chew it and use your saliva. Actually, we'll get a lot of success because water has a pH of 8.0. So if you're trying to dump that down when your stomach's trying to dump in a bunch of acid to break your food apart, it's going to make it a lot harder. So I know there are some people who actually do have true GERD where they've had hiatal hiatal hernia stomach surgery, or they've had open heart surgery and there's been some disruption just in a structural function. And if that is you, then just eat in smaller bites. Again, make sure no coffee, tea, acid. And then again, watch out for fried foods. Those things actually can be very hard for your stomach to digest. So if you put food in your stomach it doesn't like, this is true for also food allergy, a food sensitivity, processed foods, red dye number 40, words you can't pronounce. If you put something down there, your stomach's like, I don't know what this is, it's going to send it back up. Or it's going to sit in your stomach for a long time trying to break it down and break it down and break it down. Then you get that gas, then you get that bloating. That's why I love our 60-hour keto reboot. It is, and if you don't know what it is, put a 60 down below and I'll tell you what it is. Because what we do is we don't consume food. We do get nutrients, we get minerals, we get macronutrients, we get vitamins, we do get protein in a powdered form that we simply add water. It's all water soluble. We get electrolytes, we get exactly everything we need at the cellular level. But we don't rely on your teeth to chew. We're not relying on acid from your stomach. We're not relying on gallbladder salts. We simply say, let our stomach rest, let it reset, let it reform, let it get rid of all those gut bugs that could be in there. Let's let it have time to rest, repair, and rejuvenate. And then you put food in it. And we've been doing this for well over a year. And I tell people all the time, we know how healthy eggs are. You know, in the 80s, eggs weren't healthy because we were doing egg whites. Eggs are the #1 allergy. So people will start to reintroduce food. They have this big omelet when they get off of their reboot or their fast or their intermittent fast, like, oh, now I'm kind of tired, I'm kind of sleepy, I feel a little bloated, I don't feel very good. Those are all signs of a food sensitivity. So when we start talking about GERD, start eliminating things. Am I eating too big? Am I eating a lot of processed food? Am I having a lot of coffee before I have food, or tea, or soda, or alcohol? Any of those type of things. Am I not eating in moderation? Did it happen when I was pregnant? Well, then that would be, again, just do smaller quantities. If it's happening when you're obese, again, just smaller quantities of food, and don't have liquids with your food. I know there's a lot of weightlifters out there who've actually, done a lot of powerlifting and caused hiatal hernias. That can be very, very natural. And then again, just watch kind of portion control. Other things, think about this, smokers generally have a cough. Cough can affect the hiatal hernia, which can actually affect GERD. So quitting smoking can actually help that. This can happen again as well as in asthma. So chewing your food, again, just make sure food is chewed, gives your body a lot more time. There's different medications that can actually increase your chance of having GERD. So I want to make sure I got Mark's question in there. So what do I do if that's me? I'm on GERD. Start eating smaller quantities, start steaming your vegetables. Vegetables are live enzymes, so have those first before you have your fats or proteins. And maybe use your fats, instead of nuts and seeds, use nut butters. So instead of eating sunflower seeds on your salad, maybe have a scoop of sun butter, or maybe cashew butter. That way your stomach doesn't have to work as hard for that. So I do want to take a few more questions here, and hopefully this has been super helpful for you. If it's been helpful, put like a star down below so I know that this system is actually working for you guys. I've got 102 questions here this week, but I wanted to hit some of those top ones that people have been asking me for a long time. Julia is saying, can you please talk about ketones? And my friend has migraines. Julia, I would love to. I also want you to jump over to Dr. Deb's Brain and Fitness. Dr. Deb Hodges is a seasoned neurologist. I mean, she's been practicing for more than 25 years. She's been on the national board of the Women's Migraine and Headache Association since 2007, the state board of the neurology for the state of Texas. We have had her speak at Low Carb KC. But she will tell you that reducing, she's got tons of papers, so I'll come back and put that down there. It's Dr. Deb's Brain and Fitness, reducing your carbohydrate intake. So maybe you're having 300 carbohydrates a day and you simply go down to 200, but reducing it 27% will reduce your headaches almost 50%. Sugar feeds inflammation. There's food headaches that feed inflammation. So if you start craving less food, you start lowering your carbohydrates, we know that that can actually help decrease migraines. If we're talking about a ketogenic diet, are using exogenous ketones. So I'm simply saying, Julia, that just simply reducing carbohydrates are going to help migraines. That information's out there. Go to PubMed. You can Google it. Go over and ask Dr. Deb's Brain and Fitness. She can help get you that information. I know that I've got a couple of her talks on that as well on Low Carb KC page. But we do know is that migraines can be caused from hormonal issues, can be caused from food allergies. We know that ketones are major neurosignalers from the brain to the rest of our body, including our gonads and sex hormones, that having a ketogenic diet or a body running on ketones is more efficiently. So if it's a hormone imbalance, it makes sense. It should run much better on a ketogenic diet. We also know ketones deliver 30-some%, anywhere from 32 to 38% more oxygen per molecule than glucose. So that's also going to help get more oxygen to the brain. The brain tells our pituitary gland to do things like stimulate, it's a lot of science, guys, but I'm going to have to go for it. So the brain involves our limbic system, which is our emotional system. So if you're anxious and tight and hold your breath, anxiety can cause migraines. We also know that our brain also controls the hypothalamus, which tells our anterior pituitary to release things like follicle-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, which go to our gonads, also our adrenal glands, which release corticotropin hormone. So a lot of stuff going on in our brain. If we can get more oxygen to our brain via ketones, it makes sense that those end organs, like our adrenal glands, our thyroid glands, our gonads, should run much smoother. I love these questions, by the way, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Danielle Dolson, I will get back with you. Thank you for saying that. We talked about electrolytes. Speaking on stomach acid, is it good to use apple cider vinegar? So thank you, Nan, for asking that as well. So I know there's a big trend about apple cider vinegar. First, if this is you, if you think you're low on stomach acid, I'd rather have you do something else. I am a fan of apple cider vinegar if there is no signs of gut yeast. So if you stick out your tongue and it is any white at all on your tongue or brown, at the back of the tongue, that means there's a potential for having a gut yeast. I also will post a 1-minute video that in the morning you'll have a jar or a cup of plain water. You'll get in it and you'll big old 3 or 4 spits in there first thing tomorrow morning. If you get little stragglers down there within the first 5 to 15 minutes, it means you probably have Candida albicans, which is a gut yeast issue. No apple cider vinegar. It actually means you need more acid, not acid from something fermented like vinegar, but you need more stomach acid. So no apple cider vinegar. If there's any signs, whether it's toenail fungus, vaginitis, itchy ears, itchy throat, white tongue, any signs of that, no apple cider vinegar. I'd rather have you do some lemon water, so you can infuse some lemon and water overnight. A little bit of lemon, celery, and ginger is also a great pre-digestive aid. So first check that out first. Great question there. So I think I've gotten a lot of questions answered. I don't want to I want to be super mindful of your day. Again, guys, this is meant to be shared. My name is Dr. Heather Carden. I am the co-owner of Carden Center for Wellness here in Overland Park, Kansas. If you're brand new to the ketogenic diet, you can see I am at the Keto Dog for over 10 or 12 years. And I had a marketer say, don't use a keto word. It's going to come and go like paleo. So just keep it to Ask Dr. Heather, because people have lots of questions. So I had 13 pages I did not print off. I had a bunch of great information. I wanted to talk about hormones. I really want, there's my cholesterol page. So let's go back to that. Cholesterol breaks down into DHEA, which is our anti-aging hormone, which goes to pregnenolone. You can see cholesterol again. So when we start taking a cholesterol blocker, you can see that we do need things like testosterone for strong hearts, estrogen, estradiol. So when we take a statin, it stops this whole entire process, and we eat low fat, we don't have a chance of getting all that stuff. So again, the books that we recommended that start off the question from Sandy was Cholesterol Clarity, Keto Cure, I'll put the links down below, which is by Dr. Adam Nally, and Lipitor, the Thief of Memory, and How Statins Stole My Brain. And then I had a 2 or 3 questions about birth control. So we're going to talk about birth control tomorrow. If I don't talk about it tomorrow, then the next day, because I want to make sure I'm getting your questions answered. Keep dropping them down below. Again, meant to be shared, and let me know. Again, we talked about how to identify what's happening with your body, whether it's GERD, whether it's migraines, whether it's hormone balance. What do? We stop feeding the body for 60 to 70 hours. Just let it rest. Our bodies were meant to go through feast and famine. So this is how I like to explain it very briefly. It still takes 40 weeks to have a baby, whether it was 15 decades ago, in the Viking era, in the Queen Elizabeth era, in the caveman era, 40 weeks to have a baby for a human. Today, humans, 40 weeks to have a baby. What's the difference? There was no drive-through. There was no 24-hour this or that. There was no refrigeration like we know now, like GE refrigeration. So we still come into the world. Babies still are meant to be breastfed as they did ages and decades ago. And so we talk about feast or famine. If I'm a family of 6, I have 4 young men. My husband and 2 elder ones went out hunting today, and all they got was 2 little squirrels. We just didn't have anything. Or maybe they caught nothing today. just nothing. We still had to do our day-to-day chores. We still had to upkeep the land, upkeep the home, still had to keep the fire going, still had to distill water. We didn't just sit and go, we have no food, we can't do anything. We still went because our body is so smart. It stores fat for rainy days. What happens is we know that as we've lowered these cholesterol numbers, we've become macronutritionally defeated or deficient in so many areas. So we are the most overweight, malnutrition country in the world, guys. I even hate to say that, but it does make me really, really sad. And I do want to let you guys know, I saw a question. Everyone doesn't have to be keto. I do think that people do need to cut out all processed sugar. I do think people need to eat as clean as possible. I do want people to do as much glass or just cut out as much plastic as possible in close counts. It's like smoking cigarettes. Now I'm off key, but if somebody's smoking 40 cigarettes, 20 is way better than 40. So again, better, not perfect, but better. So just make small changes to get big shifts in your body. So great question. So Cheryl says, I'm on keto, but not losing weight for 3 weeks. I've not lost anything. So Cheryl, I'm actually going to start with that question on my next Facebook Live, Cheryl, if that's okay. I'm writing it down here on my paper. I did a great video on stalls and plateaus I'm going to post here for you. It's on my YouTube video, which is Ask Dr. Heather. So you can just go to YouTube and say ASKDR Heather with a space in between, plateaus or breaking plateaus, and there's a video there for you. So I will come back and post it later. My family's going to start a movie here on this Friday night, so I will get that posted for you. And now I'm way off target, but do want to make sure I'm getting your questions answered. Make sure that we're getting you on, because today's the last day to get the 60-hour keto reboot that we're going to do on the 21st of this month together in a private Facebook group. Super excited to have you guys on here today, and keep your questions coming. So I do keep a running list. If you guys could see my desk running list. So was going to talk about birth control and sex hormones. It's kind of a really hot topic right now of what's happening with the infertility we have. Either it's male gyneconastia, which means males are having breast, or we're having breast implant illness disease. I've got a ton of questions on that. I really try to hit where it's hitting at least 90% of the questions, but I do think these things are important. A lot of gut questions. We have more nerves in our gut than our spinal cord. So when we talk about resting our gut, like saying, again, like my husband didn't catch a deer today or enough to feed the family, or let's say he did catch a deer today or a buffalo here in Kansas, it would feed us and we would overeat for 3 or 4 days. And then when that buffalo's gone, we're back out to hunting again, which means we're back out to fasting again. And then when they catch the next buffalo, then we're feasting again. And then if you do live here in Kansas, right now is blueberry season. We have blueberries about 3 weeks of the year, right around the 4th of July. Then we don't have anything else again until we have squash right around Halloween. So then we would go in that periods of feasting, famining, being low carb keto, because you could have the same macros every day, being these are my keto macros, but it still is an energy in, energy out game. So what that means is, say, you know what, I based my keto macros based on, walking 5 miles every day. Well, today I didn't walk 5 miles. I didn't feel very good, but I still had my same macros, but I didn't get into ketosis. So that's why there's some different shift and changes where you really just got to listen to your body. There's no black or white rule when it comes to this. When it's in ketosis, our bodies were meant to go into ketosis and out of ketosis, but not purposely back feeding with carbohydrates and back feeding with rice and back feeding for this. Organically happening as our body rests and repairs, and then feast and famine, if that makes sense. So I do think there's some amazing benefits. We are sick as a society, as we all know. 3 out of 2 women will get cancer. 1 out of 2 men will get cancer. 80% of women will pass away due to heart disease. We have to change something. We know our body is its own pharmacy. Give it what it needs. It will break it down and repair what it needs to repair. Think about with that, close with this. If my neighbor's across the street is 8 years old, he's out riding his bike. If he breaks his arm, it's going to repair pretty quickly. We're not even casting kiddos' arms when they break anymore, but his grandma's out watching him, who maybe is 80. If she breaks her arm, we better cast that, because her slow twitch has actually declined with age, and then her balance might be off a little bit, and it's going to take her a little bit longer to repair because her body's not in that growth phase. We know that after a 24-hour fast, which means, yes, you can have some water, you can have some sea salt, some electrolytes, what happens is that your body increases human growth hormone, which is a repair mechanism, DNA repair mechanism, 2,000% in men and 1,300% in women in just 24 hours. So it's a natural state our body was meant to do. We were not meant to eat 17 times a day, or not meant to eat every 2 to 3 hours. So again, I've been super long. Thank you guys again for joining me. Have an amazing Friday, and a very safe 4th of July. Again, if you want to join us on our next 60-hour reboot, just put 60 down below, or even if you don't want to join us but just want to know more about it, I'm going to get you that info. So have a blessed day. I'll be seeing you soon.